One of the things that makes pivot tables so powerful is the ease with which they can be changed. And not just the data, but even how it is calculated and presented. In our last video, Uma created a pivot table showing us the total sales by customer type. Her manager, however, has asked that she adjust this, so rather than showing the total sales, it shows the number of orders. Really, all we're looking to do here is change it from a sum to a count, but we've seen that in Excel, pivot tables automatically sum values. Fortunately, this is very easy to change. Now, like with anything in Excel, there are a lot of different ways of doing this, but a really good one-stop shop is a right click. So we're going to find one of our numeric values and right click. This brings up a menu of options that allow us to change our pivot table. And just after halfway down, you'll see summarize value by, and of course, it has been summed. But we could choose from a number of list functions, including average, min, max, or in this case, count. So we're going to click count, and there I have my number of orders by customer type. Let's just quickly recap that. So right click, summarize values by, and choose your function. Now in my second pivot table, Uma's been asked to make a slightly different change. Instead of seeing the total sales as discrete values by year, our marketing manager would like to see them as a percentage of grand total so he can more easily measure them against each other. Now again, very easy to do. Come to one of your numeric values and right click. This time come to show values as, and you'll see at the moment no calculation has been applied. But there's quite a selection we could choose from. Now we'll just look at a couple of these to give you an idea. In this case, we'd like to see percentage of grand total. So I'm going to click on that. And now we have each of our values as a percentage of our grand total. So for example, Yvette's 2014 sales make up nearly 5% of our total revenue. What about if we wanted to get a breakdown by year? Well, similar process. Right click, show values as, but this time we're going to choose percentage of column total. What it has done is now added each column as 100%, and we're getting a breakdown within that column. So Connor's sales for 2017 make up over 40% of the sales for that year. To get it back to our discrete values, simply right click, come down to show values as, and set no calculation. So there we saw how we could change the way the data was calculated. It's possible that we will also wish to format our pivot, and this can also easily be done. For example, these values should really be shown as currency. So we're going to right click on one of our values, come to number format, choose currency, and say OK. Looks much better. What about changing the way our pivot looks from an aesthetic point of view? Well, that we can do too. We have a whole selection of tools on our Design tab of our Pivot Table Tools ribbon, which will allow us to do this really quickly. Let's make a few tweaks to our table though. So we would now like to see a breakdown of sales by year within region. So I'm going to get rid of my account manager. I'm going to drag it off the rows area, and instead I'm going to put state into the rows area, and then I'm going to get my order year, drag that from columns and put it into the rows area. I now have a breakdown of years by state. You will notice that the minute you add two or more values to the columns or rows area, you get subtotals. Now with the subtotals, you actually have a few choices. You can choose to turn them off. So by coming up to my Design tab on my ribbon, come to subtotals, you could switch them off, or you could choose where you want them to display. Mine at the moment are showing at the bottom of my group, but I'd prefer to see them at the top. This gives me a slightly more compact report. You can also choose to switch your grand totals on or off. We're going to leave ours as is. And you can make some amendments to your report layout. By default, it is in compact form, but I can change it to outline form or even tabular form. If you select tabular, you have a further option. You can choose to repeat all item labels. This now looks like a regular table. It does take up a bit more space though, so I'm going to go back to my compact form. You can also add some instant styling to your table, much like you could with regular tables, by coming to your pivot table styles, and if you click the More button, the little drop down on the far right, you get an even bigger selection, and I'm going to go for just some nice quick styling. So we've now seen how easy it is to adjust the data, the way it is calculated, and even the formatting in a pivot table. In the next video, we're going to further refine our pivot table by looking at how we can group, sort, and filter the data.